So today we're going to be talking about why an unexpectedly naked man is always a threat. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll always know when I put up a new video. So people are creating a bunch of narratives around the whole situation with the DoorDash girl. Oh, maybe he was asleep, maybe this, maybe that. There's no such thing as an accidentally naked man, and here's why naked men, unexpectedly so, are always a threat. In season 4 of How I Met Your Mother, there's an episode literally called The Naked Man. So in the episode, Ted and Robin are still sharing an apartment. He's just been left at the altar by Stella. Robin's out on a date. Ted comes upstairs to their apartment for something, and he finds this naked man sitting on the sofa. And he says, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you were on a date, but why didn't Robin put out our signal so I could know to stay out of the apartment?" And the man says, "She didn't know I was going to be naked." What happened is Robin stepped outside to take a phone call. Remember how your cell phone didn't used to work inside buildings? And he took that opportunity to strip naked. Mitch, this guy, acknowledges that Robin is way out of his league. And then he says, "My only shot with a girl like her is the element of surprise. Keep this in mind." He said, "And let's be honest, a little pity. It's shock and awe." Who don't know it, shock and awe is a reference to a military tactic. It's what's known as rapid dominance, and it's based on the use of overwhelming power in confluence with spectacular displays of force to paralyze the enemy's perception of the battlefield and destroy their will to fight. If you're a millennial like the people who watched How I Met Your Mother, you grew up hearing this term used a lot in reference to Iraq and Afghanistan. It literally just means bombing the hell out of something until the people just slink away and just give up completely. The person hasn't done anything, they haven't even launched an attack, and you bomb them into submission before they can even start to launch one. That's what that means. Men will tell you everything you ever need to know about them and their strategies if you just listen. This man says his technique for women is shock and awe. He knows that by stripping naked, he completely changes the layout of this quote-unquote battlefield. Because he's not really counting on pity. He said the truth in the first line. The element of surprise. And it's a nice way of covering up the fact he is eroding your consent, because there should never be a surprise when it comes to anything sexual, okay? There should be discussion. You should both know where things are headed. An unexpected, unforeseen, unasked for surprise in the realm of anything physical spells lack of consent. Why would you want to surprise someone? To paralyze their decision-making skills. Phrase, the element of surprise. I kept going back to that because he's admitting he knows under normal circumstances where things are equitable, like in the restaurant they were in downstairs, Robin would never ever choose him. The date's going terribly. Lily confirms. Robin's been sending me text messages all night about how bad this date is. So he lies. Because when Ted comes downstairs and says, "Oh, they're having a romantic evening or whatever," Lily says, "I don't believe that. This girl said she only was going to let him go upstairs to use the bathroom." So he lies to get into her apartment. As soon as she turns her back to take this phone call, he strips naked. This man is trying to force you into a compromising position where it's almost impossible to extricate yourself. The whole thing reminded me so much of The Implication from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You remember this famous scene. The guy says, "Oh, we just spent all this money on this boat. We have to go get a mattress." The other guy says, "A mattress? Why do we need a mattress?" Because we're going to ask the girls we bring on the boat to sleep with us. And none of them are ever going to say no because of the implication. And the guy in black says, "The implication? What is the implication?" And the one in blue literally says, "The implication of danger." And he says, the things you're supposed to say. "Oh, well, obviously, if she says no, the answer is no, but she would never say no because of the implication." In other words, there's no way to escape. You're out in the middle of the ocean on a boat with a guy you don't know that well, and you're terrified. What if he doesn't take your no seriously? I've been saying for years, these so-called dark comedy shows are men saying the quiet part out loud. And How I Met Your Mother's not even supposed to be dark comedy. But these men are letting you know how they think. These shows are written by men, often consumed by men. And in case you think, "Oh, this is just entertainment or nobody's really doing this," check out this thread I found on Reddit while I was researching this. Has anyone tried the naked man? If so, did it work or what happened? And I have to tell you, this is one of 3 threads that popped up within about 2 minutes. I literally typed in the Naked Man episode on How I Met Your Mother so I could get some pictures, and all of these threads started popping up. So I don't know what would happen if I actually researched the naked man term and were people doing it in the world. And here are some truly frightening responses. I just did it with someone. She's disgusted AF by it. And this poor woman down here didn't work. I reported it, SA charge, hopefully for him. Very, very scary. Now, if you and your date discussed having smex beforehand, then yes, for sure. And this is what I'm saying. Unsuspecting women are out in the world experiencing this. Men are actually doing this stuff. Do you know there are whole pages dedicated to men trying the techniques that Barney used on the show, which are honestly mostly just fraud, harassment, and SA? But I hope these discussions about the implication and techniques like the naked man show you how much men view physical contact as a power struggle. And techniques like this that are meant to surprise you are really about getting the upper hand and some sort of power struggle you were even unaware you were in. Because let's break this down in the context of a date. You are out on a date with a guy. He has now, by artificial means, moved it into your apartment. And you step outside, you come back in, he's naked. What that says to a woman is this man intends to sleep with me whether I desire it or not, whether I consent or not. This is very carefully staged because Mitch is a short, balding guy and Robin is, the ballsy, tall, carries. She's always packing a weapon kind of woman who can defend herself. So, they do it here and it's supposed to be lighthearted because Mitch is not really a threat to Robin. Actually, the whole gang runs upstairs because they're afraid when they realize Robin finds this guy naked in her apartment without her consent that she is going to take him out. But most men are taller or more physically imposing in some way than the women they are going to be dating. Stronger, more muscular, fatter, whatever. And they can overpower you. So when you come out and there is a man who is nude, you are terrified. You're literally frozen because you both are afraid to try to do anything to de-escalate the situation. All the things you can do to de-escalate, asking him to put his clothes back on, telling him you're not interested in him or whatever, that is going to force a confrontation. And a confrontation with a nude man is exactly what you don't want. You don't want to get the situation heightened where you guys are physically fighting because it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to what he wanted anyway. You don't want any more physical contact with the person who you didn't want to be nude in your apartment to start with. And he knows by changing the dynamics of the situation, by getting naked, it's an easy way to shift the blame. I thought the most interesting thing about this thing was that, Robin does end up sleeping with him. And afterwards, Marshall calls her a slut. Yes, Marshall calls her a slut. Men know in the court of public opinion, all they have to do is seal the deal. It doesn't matter if they got you drunk. It doesn't matter if the threat of violence was implied, the implication. It doesn't matter how they got you to do it. Once it's done and they've extorted it from you without actually hitting you or anything like that, then they can say, well, she did it. It was her choice. And the men around you can blame you for it. Marshall says, I call slut. Oh, the only thing between Robin and Smex is somebody taking their clothes off. He didn't even consider that Robin may have felt endangered. Robin felt forced, compromised, not at liberty to say no. Marshall listened to Ted come back down and talk about everything that Mitch said. Ted has faithfully reported that Mitch used a technique to surprise and shock and awe women into sleeping with him, to get the upper hand in their own apartments. And Marshall didn't think to himself, hey, this is untoward. Hey, did he take away their choices? What are the ways in which this is not a fair, equitable choice? He just calls Robin a slut because that's what men do. And the other thing that happened is that as soon as they heard about this move, Barney and Ted go out on dates and immediately employ it. They're calling each other on the phone. Oh my God, what pose are you going to do your naked man in? Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And they play this whole idea of jumping out in a woman's apartment without her consent or knowledge, completely naked, as a big joke. And it's not a coincidence. Lest we forget, one of the reasons reporter Charlie Rose is no longer employed is because he was alleged many, many times to have done this to women. He would be in his hotel room or apartment, and his women assistant producers, including Beth Harmon Ross, said he would come out naked from the shower, sometimes holding a towel, sometimes just opening the door completely nude. As she says, more than once, Charlie Rose asked her to come into his bathroom while he was showering. She said she declined and she waited outside. She said it was a sexual landmine everywhere you stepped. And the thing is, dozens of people corroborate this story. Other assistant producers, people who worked at the network, they're like, yes, this man was walking around his apartment, so not somebody else's, his own, completely nude, and everybody knew this was inappropriate and nobody called him out for it. And then he also groped women, made remarks about their physical assets, innuendos about their sex lives and all sorts of things. It was really horrific. The point is, everyone seemed to know back in 2018 that doing this stuff, even in your own apartment, was highly suspect and a crime. So why they're acting brand new now that the DoorDash girl has said this man was naked, sure enough, in his apartment, but naked with the door wide open, now that people are acting like they don't realize this is some kind of threat, is crazy to me. But it's not that they don't know it's a threat, it's that they don't like who the threat was levied at. They basically are going to find a way to blame any young woman who is even mildly attractive for anything that happens to them. Because change the person it happens to and the response changes. If it had been an old grandmother doing DoorDash, if it was little kids coming up his walkway to get Halloween candy, nothing about the situation has to change. People's reaction is going to be so different. Oh my God, lock that pervert up. Put him on a watch list. He should be doing this and that and the third, because you think the person he did it to is entitled to protection. The picture she took from the sidewalk shows he is clearly, openly exposed to the earth with his door wide and flagrantly open. So all these people coming up with a narrative they made up in their heads about how she opened the door and he said leave the food on the thing and she went inside. Baby, DoorDashers don't even want to come to your door. So I don't believe any of that. And the picture, the real picture, was clearly taken from way outside of his house. I mean, you can see the door, you can see, the outline of the house and everything. You can't get that. But people have been cropping the picture and doing all kinds of things because they want to find a way to make it your fault as a woman. I have said it before and I will say it again. It's not about the situation. Because remember back in the day with the Charlie Rose and Harvey Weinsteins of the world, people would always say, oh my God, well, if they had proof and why'd they wait so long to come forward? That's just the convenient excuse. Now we live in a time when everybody has a cell phone in their pocket. They've got a recording device, they've got a video camera, everything they need. So proof is easy to come by. And there are more women than ever of naked proof, literally, of what happened to them. And people find a way to discredit the proof because it's not about the situation. It's about flipping the narrative on you, the woman. It's about making this kind of behavior okay. 20 years ago, when R. Kelly was on trial the first time for assaulting that preteen girl on camera, the Boondocks lampoons the whole thing because he literally, it's so identifiable. They put in the video, oh, yeah, he says his name and his social security number and everything like that. But it's clearly and obviously him. He is assaulting a child. So if nothing else, he is definitely guilty of statutory rape. But it became about litigating the girl. Oh, why was she there? She must have wanted it. Where were her parents? Why was she out so late at night? Oh, she's fast and grown. It becomes about litigating the victim's likability or their actual victimhood rather than the man's behavior. Because it's always about moving the goalposts so men are never responsible. And I have been saying for a while now, the more proof you have as a woman, the more in danger you are. Because when people can argue about the facts of the case, they argue about the facts of the case. When there's no argument about the facts of the case, when you have them dead to rights, when the man is caught on video, they start arguing about you. They start trying to make you the villain. Because it messes with their sense of reality to have to call men out for what they are. People have this fantasy that all the rapists are like the wacko in the rain bushes. I meant in the raincoat in the bushes. Yeah, it's like the scary guy in the alley. It's some guy who snuck into your apartment. It's always the creep out there. It's an outlier. It's a scary, monstrous man. They don't want to admit stuff like this is SA because they've done it. I'll never forget when Aziz Ansari, which I think was like the last big Me Too case, when his accuser came forward, so many men said, oh, if that's SA, I've done it, I'm an SAer. I don't think they really realized what they were saying. They were saying it sarcastically, but without knowing it, they're admitting that they are rapists. Like, yes, sir, come to the front of the class. You're admitting it because doing this stuff makes you a rapist. I've actually never liked How I Met Your Mother because Barney, the Barney character, is a rapist. He does all sorts of things. He fully admits to getting women drunk. And I'm not talking about like, oh, loosening their inhibitions, even though that's a mess too. He talks about wanting to find that fine line between when a woman is passed out or throwing up and getting her to his apartment just in time. He complained about living too far from McLaren's because his dates were passing out and throwing up too much. And so he wanted to rent their apartment upstairs to use for women so he could get to them basically before nature did because he applied them with so many drinks. Sir, you are a rapist. And all those personas, costumes, different identities, that is rape by deception. I'm not even going to argue the idea of whether or not it's okay to sleep with somebody under false circumstances. Men certainly know what consent is when you withhold vital information about you. All of a sudden, that marriage license, that positive STD test, that whatever is not just a piece of paper. It's like, well, why didn't you let me know? Why did you take away my consent? Personally, I think this whole thing was a bit of a test case. I believe that this happened to this young lady, but I'm saying the way it's being litigated in public is a test case. People, men, are trying to turn things back to the dark ages. I already told you all back when Roe v. Wade was first overturned what it was going to lead to. Sadly, I haven't been wrong yet, and here we are at the precipice. We're going back 30, 40, 50 years. We're literally going back to the time before the rape shield law was in place to protect victims, because I see so many people wanting to do horrible things to survivors. And I'm not just talking about individual people, we're talking about governments. There are states now introducing legislation that if you accuse a man of SA and the jury does not find him guilty, then you will be charged with some sort of crime. It could be perjury, it could be filing a false report, could be any number of things. And there are some states where it's already happening. They haven't, instituted any law. They've already done it. The thing is going. It's like that in the military, which is why so many women are so afraid to report. They know they will often be in trouble for fraternizing or adultery or all these other crimes because they were assaulted by a man. It's an easy way to make the victims police themselves because you're so afraid of what will happen to you and your reputation and your livelihood that you don't report what happens. And then more and more men get away with it and just becomes the culture. And that's what they want. I mean, that's how it was all these years. Predators flourishing. But first of all, forewarned is forearmed. So if you already know this is coming, you cannot be surprised when it happens. You can already have your plan in place. So here's what you should do should you find yourself in a situation like this. I told you all like a year or a year and a half ago, women who are in service industries are going to be particularly at risk. So that's your door dashers, your waitresses, your manicurists, your masseuses, all of that. If you work in an industry where you are of service and anybody can come in or require your services, you are going to be in a lot of danger because men have been getting shut down. More and more women are engaging in 4B, decentering men, whatever species of it you want to call it. And then also they're facing more stringent requirements than ever in the workplace. They can no longer harass their coworkers with impunity because the company knows, hey, it's going to cost us some money. Not to mention more and more women are working from home. And you've seen them since 2020, they have considerably devolved in behavior. And they're just doing the most weird and outrageous stuff ever. So you already know they're going to be off the chain, okay? You know they're going to be acting up if they're in a space where they feel empowered and you're supposed to be serving them. So you should already have your double, triple, quadruple layers of protection ready to go. If you DoorDash or you do anything where you're going to be going to people's homes, have a male companion with you. Failing that, have a piece with you. You know what I'm saying? If you're a manicurist, esthetician, masseuse, make it so that you're never alone with the person, or, have the door open, whatever you need to do. Because more and more of those women have been coming online talking about men trying to get into their spaces and do just awful things to them. And not even just physical things. One woman talked about a guy coming in trying to rob her. They see you as an easy lick in this time period, so you have to make sure that you're not one. Now that their predator in chief is in office, a lot of these guys in the regular office workplace are trying to revert to their old ways. They're trying to start with the innuendo, the touching, the harassment, the groping, all that stuff. I'm sure we all know by now, HR, not your friend, there to protect the company, not you. And starting off by getting an employment lawyer and whatnot, it can make the situation contentious. Either way, you're going to lose years from your career, you're going to lose where you were, all because someone tried to victimize you. Don't steer into the skid. Go left when they expect you to go right. For example, the DoorDash girl. A guy's got his door wide open and he's nude for the whole street to see. I would have called the police to do a wellness check. Because then you're not accusing the guy of anything, but you're saying, oh my goodness, this is a dangerous situation for him and for the street. Little kids could be happening by, anybody could go into his apartment. I don't know what's going on with this person. You police officers figure it out. And when they did that, they would have seen that this guy already had a charge for indecent exposure that had been downgraded to disorderly conduct or something like that. It's online, go look it up. So they can deal with him and charge him how they see fit. But above all, that is going to have the desired effect of changing his behavior. He's not going to be doing that again anytime soon, not unless he wants to be on a nice 72-hour hold. What you want to do is maintain your plausible deniability. Why should you make the argument when you can get somebody else to make it for you? Same thing in your office. You're not saying Charlie is harassing you. You're saying he seems erratic. He seems unwell. Isn't this guy almost 80 and he's walking around naked and exposing himself and talking about inappropriate things with people? He seems unhinged. Maybe the boss should look out for that. Like something is not right with him. Enough people report on this erratic behavior because people are going to be willing to come forward and say, oh yeah, he seems old, he seems off his game, he seems off the mark, rather than he harassed me. And bam, same thing is accomplished. He's pushed out. You don't have to worry about this idiot anymore. And your rep is sterling. You were just looking out for everybody. You're looking out for the company, looking out for efficiency. None of this has ever been about right or wrong. And I think a lot of women are surprised, like this poor girl on DoorDash, because when they do the thing you are always supposed to do, that is get proof, then the hammer falls on them more heavily. They're like, wait a minute, I've done everything right. It's not about being right. It's about seeing what's going on and thinking about what your aims are long term. This guy was a stranger. He literally picked her because she was on DoorDash and she happened to be the person who was coming to his door. But if you're in a workplace with a coworker who is known to you, you have to look around and say, well, there's an office full of people. Why did this person pick me? There are only a couple of answers. First of all, they're casting a wide net. They didn't just pick you. And if you talk a little bit, you'll find that they have lots of other victims in the office. Together, you can be mighty. Or you say to yourself, well, I'm the only one of my kind here. I'm the only woman in the office. I'm the only young person in the office. Whatever it is that makes you stand out, you're like, okay, well, this person is going to try to weaponize whatever my identity is against me. They're going to say, I'm a woman. I'm too sensitive. Oh, I'm young. I don't know how the team works. And he's the senior leader. But what do I tell you all? Anything that works against you can work for you once you understand the principle of reverse. They're saying you're young and experienced. He's an old codger and he's losing his mind. That's all I can say on this topic publicly, but I will be discussing it more in my upcoming book. It'll be out in just a couple of weeks, more like a week and a half now. And for the inside scoop, you can always see me over on TikTok in my subscription series or follow me on Patreon. Same name, Cecilia Regina, on Patreon, and Dr. Cecilia Regina on TikTok. And if you need to consult on a specific issue in your workplace or something like that, you can always reach out to me for a one-on-one, and you can email me for that at conquerorperish2020@gmail.com. CONQUER, or, OR, Parish, PERISH 2020@gmail.com. Make sure you like, follow, and comment below for more. And I will see you all a little later today with another video. That's it.